bring you some breaking news. The Times newspaper can now exclusively reveal, and I can share this with you, Diane Abbott will not be allowed to stand as a Labour candidate in the election. It's a move that will likely end her 37-year career in Parliament. And here are the details of this. She's the MP for Hackney North and Stoke Newington. She's, of course, the first black woman elected to Parliament. And she was suspended from the party back in April, and the Labour leadership, we're now seeing from the Times, has concluded that she will not be allowed to stand under the Labour banner on 4th of July. An announcement may be made as soon as today, the Times is saying. There are talks among senior aides to Keir Starmer about restoring her to the Labour whip before the election to allow her to leave politics with dignity. Last week, the Labour leader promised a resolution to the case before June the 4th, the party deadline for candidate selection, which falls 3 days before the legal close of nominations. Now, last night, you may have seen the BBC reporting an internal investigation into a letter by Abbott to The Observer. She likened the discrimination suffered by Jewish people, Irish travellers, to the bullying of redheads. And that investigation concluded 6 months ago. Now we know where it is heading. This will cause a considerable controversy in the Labour Party. Diane Abbott's friends, many of them very much on the left, on the Corbynite wing of the Labour Party, have suspected that it was part of the Keir Starmer's agenda to push out Diane Abbott as a thorn in his side from the left of his party. Well, now we know she will not be allowed to stand for the party. How did that square with what we were hearing earlier on, that it was going to be left to the National Executive, independently of the Labour Party, to decide about Diane Abbott's future? Now, this was going to get, if you like, a good deal of attention because of who Diane Abbott is. A big personality, one of the best-known MPs at Westminster, certainly on the Labour side. Now it looks as if the curtain will come down, being drawn down on Diane Abbott's career. What is behind this? Can it be justified? Is it about a purge of the left by Keir Starmer's new order in the Labour Party? Is it about process? We will talk about this on the programme as we go through Drive and into Pienaar and Friends this evening. It's in the Times, it's exclusive. Diane Abbott won't be allowed to stand as a Labour candidate. This is now just dropped. Tell us more.
Yes, so this evening we're reporting on the Times, John, that Diane Abbott categorically will not be standing as a Labour candidate at the general election. Obviously, this day today we've had the news that the internal investigation into her commenting in the Observer newspaper, which she apologised for and retracted, likening the discrimination against Jewish, Irish people and travellers to the bullying of people with ginger hair, concluded in December. But the party has resolved not to allow her to stand as a general election candidate, notwithstanding, regardless of any apology or clarification she may yet offer. Our understanding is that Diane Abbott will not be standing as a Labour candidate at the next election.
OK, now that we all remember, because we've heard it just in the last 24 hours or so, that the Labour leader Keir Starmer, and I was talking to Louise Haigh on the Shadow Cabinet, who said it's up to an independent decision of the party's National Executive Committee, not up to the leader. Can you square this with that?
Look, the party's National Executive Committee is clearly going to take the final decision on whether Diane Abbott is allowed to stand, as it does with any Labour candidate, but it's our understanding that decision, when it comes, will be a blockage, a ban on Diane Abbott standing. There is the live question about whether she receives the Labour Party whip back before the election, whether she can leave politics calling herself a Labour MP. We understand that's a live discussion, but when that decision comes, when the National Executive Committee meets, we understand it will decide that she will not stand as a Labour candidate.
So is this, in reality then, Patrick, is this Keir Starmer and the leader's office laying down the law and the Executive Committee will go along with his wish, or is this somehow what the NEC will independently decide? Because it seems rather more like the former than the latter.
Well, look, John, it's fair to say, regardless of the notional independence of the NEC from the leadership, it is dominated by people who support Keir Starmer's political project. It is controlled by allies of Keir Starmer. The leadership have a clear majority at that, on the National Executive Committee. So any suggestion that it is a fully independent process is clearly overplayed.
In a way, it was ever thus. I mean, how is this going to go down in the Labour ranks? Because she does divide opinion, to put it mildly, Diane Abbott.
In short, John, badly among broad swathes of the Labour Party, not least the left of the Labour Party. Obviously, Diane Abbott's comrades on the left of the Labour Party. But look, there's a broad degree of sympathy for Diane Abbott, as distinct from the sort of broad irritation with Jeremy Corbyn. Even the Labour frontbench spokespeople we've had on Times Radio today are always very careful to praise her as a trailblazer, as the first black woman MP ever elected to Parliament. This is a decision that will be taken in sorrow rather than anger or great recrimination from the Labour Party. But you can be sure that Momentum and many Labour MPs will be unhappy with this, and I'm sure we'll be hearing from them over the coming days and weeks.
And so one imagines that the leader's office and the leader will be content to put up with that sort of criticism for the point of sending a signal that the Corbynite tendency has been purged.
Well, and indeed that Diane Abbott's comments were unacceptable in the first place, and regardless of her apology, that Keir Starmer cannot be accused of special favours for anybody who is accused of anti-Semitism. I mean, that is the leadership's position. Many people will disagree with it, but it's led the party to a place where it will not permit Diane Abbott to stand.
Let's welcome to the show Louise Haigh, the Shadow Transport Secretary for the Labour Party. Welcome to you, Louise.
Hi, John.
So it doesn't matter how well the headquarters plan a campaign, things keep popping up, don't they? And now we've got the story, let's mention this, about Diane Abbott, who you know well. The investigation into Diane Abbott, who at the moment, she's barred from standing as a Labour candidate, but the investigation apparently ended months ago, and she did an anti-Semitism course. So do you think, Louise, she should now be allowed to run as a candidate in Hackney?
Look, I'm afraid I don't know any of the details. I've seen those news reports. I don't know the accuracy or otherwise to them, because it is a completely independent process to politicians, and that's how it absolutely should be. But Keir has said, I gather he's been informed that the process will be concluded in a matter of days, and I hope it is resolved very swiftly. And as I've said before, Diane is a trailblazer and a role model to so many, particularly young women of colour across the Labour movement. And I think this would be a horribly sad way for her distinguished parliamentary career to end.
Right, so you see her as a trailblazer and an example to many people, one of the first black MPs in the House of Commons. So you are hoping she will be reinstated as a candidate. That's clear from you.
Well, look, I think what she said in The Guardian was completely wrong, and it was right that a process is dealing with it. I think it's really regrettable that the process has taken so long, and it's good that it will conclude very shortly. And like I say, I think it would be a really sad way for her parliamentary career to end if it were to do so in this way. But it is completely independent, and it's right that politicians shouldn't involve themselves in complaints process about their colleagues. That was what led to such disastrous consequences under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, and that terrible time in our history when we were investigated by the EHRC over our conduct on anti-Semitism. That's why since then an independent process has been set up, and it's right that should run its course and be completely separate from any political interference.